Center for the Ethiopian Educational Information and Communication Technology presents Educational Satellite Television Programs.
Hello, teacher. Hello, students. Welcome to today's lesson on Ethiopian foreign relations. This is our second lesson on this topic. Last time, we learned about Ethiopia's foreign relations and policy. We discussed the relationship that always exists between a country's domestic and foreign policies. We also learned about some of the principles that guide Ethiopia's foreign policy. In this lesson, we will turn our attention to the relationship between Ethiopia's use of natural resources and international relations. This will be a very interesting lesson, students. We will begin with a question that I would like you to answer. What do you think the relationship is between natural resources and foreign policy? Take a moment to consider your answer before writing it down. Make sure to write in complete sentences.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Welcome back, everyone. I wonder what you wrote in response to this question. The 1995 Constitution of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia clearly states the country's foreign policy objectives and principles. Ethiopia's foreign policy promotes friendly relations with other countries for mutual benefits. Some of Ethiopia's international relationships are dictated by geography and by natural resource utilization. For example, Ethiopia has a number of rivers that flow into other countries. Ethiopia is not the only country who benefits from these rivers. The Blue Nile, the Kezi, Akobo, and Baro rivers flow into the Sudan and Egypt. The Wabi Shebeli, Genali, and Dawa rivers flow into Somalia. To make fair and good use of these excellent natural resources, the countries involved have to form agreements with one another about how to use them equitably. Let us continue to think about the relationship between foreign policy and natural resources using the example of the Blue Nile. Ethiopia is the main source of the Nile River, and the country urgently needs water for irrigation and for hydroelectric power development. However, Ethiopia is the country in the Eastern Nile Basin that uses the least amount of water from the Nile runoff. This is because there is no basin-wide agreement on the utilization and management of the water resources of the Nile Basin. The waters of the Eastern Nile Basin encompass Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. Historically, these countries have pursued conflicting approaches to the use of the shared water resources. This is because each country has been driven by its own national interest. Throughout the 20th century, Egypt and Sudan claimed a monopoly on the Nile waters. Ethiopia stressed that the use of the Nile should meet the development need of all basin countries. Basin security can only be achieved if the waters of the Nile are used equitably. Therefore, basin-wide cooperation has been sought after. This would allow each country to have an acceptable level of entitlement. It would also allow the countries to share benefits with each other. In 1999, the Nile Basin Initiative was created as a partnership among the Nile states. The initiative seeks to develop the river in a cooperative manner, share socioeconomic benefits, and promote regional peace and security. The use of the Nile is a clear example of how foreign policy and natural resource management are related. Students, let us pause for an activity. please form small groups of 3 or 4 and discuss the following question. Suppose you are part of a program aimed at creating cooperation among Nile Basin states. What initiatives could you propose to help these countries work together to use this natural resource wisely and fairly? Do your best, students, and I will see you in a few minutes.
Students, let's get ready. Begin. Time's up! Let's get back to our lesson.
Hello again. Did you have useful discussions in your small groups? There are a number of different ways that the Nile Basin countries can work together to develop the river equitably. Shared data and information is one important way. Another idea is to promote dialogue and region-wide networks for joint problem solving. Countries could work together to create multi-country investment programs that would assist development of the region. It is also important for the countries to work together to preserve the natural environment and to protect the Nile Basin from contamination. Great ideas, students. As we can see from the example of the Nile River Basin, geography and natural resource utilization are often instrumental in the formation of foreign policy. A country, such as Ethiopia, has to have a foreign policy that takes into account the fact that Ethiopia shares important natural resources with other countries. Since Ethiopia's foreign policy is aimed at economic growth, it is important for Ethiopia to have positive and mutually beneficial relationships with other nations. Students, this is the end of both our lesson and of our unit on building a democratic system. Thank you for your attention. Until next time, thank you, teacher. Thank you, students.